Hello guys and welcome to our channel. This is Baberhole. In today's video we are talking about the Catalyst, the last elite specialization for the second beta End of Dragons. I already talked about the Vindicator and the Bladesworn, what my intake on them, what I think is good and bad, and I already said that I believe Bladesworn is probably the best that got introduced, and this one is the worst. If you're interested in watching the other video, you can find him in the cards and in the description. So now let's talk about this one. It feels pointless to play it. You have to change a lot of it and it still will always feel pointless. I'm going to explain my point of view on why I feel this way with it. So let's start with the hammer itself. The hammer literally forces you to play melee and power, nothing else. Why? Because it have melee on earth and melee on water, mid-range on air and on fire. In Earth, it doesn't have a condition on the auto attack. I believe strongly that this should change. As you have bleed here, you should have bleed here too. Fire have burning on the first two skills, and on the number 4, you have it on number 5, which fine. But both skills, both elements should do condition on the auto attack, just like Scepter for example. But for some reason, Hammer doesn't. Now, technically, in order to play conditions, that means you would have to invest in fire almost only and invest a lot in burning, but every other element starts feeling extremely unreliable and it's extremely pointless to engage with, so you're forced to go with power, and I do not like to be forced to play with power. I like options. That's why I liked Harbinger for example. I mean, if you give me a class of condition I might be interested in, everyone has the thing they like. If you're already interested in playing power and that's what you want, I think then you're fine with that. The burning is a cherry on top, nothing more. I'm running with the celestial gear here, so don't get fooled by the numbers and how high the burn or stuff like that. So besides that, you're literally forced to play melee. Since you can't stay at that mid-range of 600, you would have to come close. You're even rewarded for it by insane heal for the skill. For example, it heals a lot on every target that hit. It heals by big numbers. And something like Earth would have huge damage with blast finisher on everything around you, so you are really rewarded for melee. That means you have to play melee. This is not a mid-range weapon. It gives you a bit of utility, so you don't just stuck on your enemy, but it is basically a melee weapon. It has some cool tricks like that skill, and I think the Yeet one, the skill 4, is extremely enjoyable, and if you have a target, it will always turn you back and whew, you're away. You're really far now. So I really loved casting this skill, to be honest. Now, another part of the problem, I'm not gonna go in every skill for no reason. Let's just talk about the very important stuff. That projectile will only damage if it hit or go through the enemy. That's why if you saw in this video of talking about how high the damage that can come from this class, well, it's not high. Not by far, because if this projectile passes, it will hit, as you see, but if it doesn't, it will not do anything. So all skill 3 will not do anything and the DPS become extremely low. This class, just like that, will never be played for DPS unless the number changed. But I think this skill, it's a problem with it. There is no way it should function like this. I think it will need to be changed or technically fixed at this point, because once you use this skill, it doesn't hit, but only when you're far like that it hits. It has to really go through the object, and it stays for extremely low time. It feels way less rewarded, and it said they wanted to not be extremely powerful, so you basically a shredder that goes around destroying anything with the things that's been around you. But I think they made it extremely less powerful and it doesn't function properly. You can't really cast the 4 every time and think it's okay. You would have to really focus on this mechanic, and there is not much reward come of it anyway. So now let's talk about the small elephant in the room, which is this thing. It has an energy bar, works similarly to Celestial Avatar. You can, however, cast it even if you don't have any energy, but it will disappear immediately. It will give you the boons, the first effect, and go away. So you basically get the value of it as a skill that gives you boons. Outside of combat, even if you had maximum energy, which is 30 on 30, it will deplete to 10. Why? Why not keep the energy? This was a bit confusing. At least you would get some value out of it, so I think it would make sense. It will stay for a while. When I fill it with the Mushroom King Blessing, it sticks like that unless I enter combat and I get out of it, it goes to this normal state. So it is a bit confusing, and I'm not sure how it's supposed to function anyway. But let's get to the augment skills. Those skills are giving you value, but if used in the jade sphere with the exact element of them, it gives another value. So the healing skill would heal for a really decent amount over time. It's like Troll Wind basically for Ranger, but if it's used in water, it will give you cleanse over time. This one would give you barrier, and then would give you block, and if it's earth, give you barrier. This one work like One Wolf Back or Shiro skills that do extra hits, and if it's the same element, it would put chill also on the hits every interval. This one, however, is really powerful. It's 15% damage increase, and all your hits are unblockable. As you see, this is a golem with an Aegis, and I'm hitting him with Air 2 after using this in the fire element, and all my hits did not remove the Aegis, so every hit is unblockable until the effect is gone, the Aegis is gone. So this skill is really powerful in a way. Even so, it's in 5 seconds. It breaks this rule of unblockable only work for stacks. So maybe ArenaNet should thought it will break the rule, because you have to stick in or use it inside the fire augment, like fire field here. So I'm not really sure. And you don't also need to cast it from inside. If you cast it inside the jade, you can leave the jade and you will still keep the extra effect, as you saw me do here. Besides the those skills that we talked about, there is also another one, which is this one. It's a stun break, and it's giving you an extra super speed, so I don't think it is this valuable. So as you see, those skills can be powerful, but you need to be utilized with this one. So like, they have too much work going on them, and I'm not sure where to actually put them. Maybe just simple, because Ellie is supposed to be hard to play, but this just feel like a mess to me in a way. But tell me what you think, you Ellie mains that actually play this class as their main character. The last one, giving you reduction for cooldowns on your weapon and extra boons if used with the same element. The cooldown is very long, and the reduction, I'm not sure it worth this much, because it's maximum of 8 seconds only, so it feels like a really weird choice. Why don't you just go with Tornado in World vs. World, for example? It's have a low cooldown, and if traded, it can be really strong. In PvE, you would go with Glyph of Elemental, or even for DPS, you would go with Conjured. So I'm not seeing it being used in any game mode, probably. Now let's go with the trait, with the real mess in my opinion happen, because if you remove the hammer, if you remove the skill, if you're taking it for the trait and the mechanic of getting extra boons or something from the jade sphere, you start getting the problem when you come to the traits. So basically you have the energy mechanics that we explained, and you have every line of the traits like that work on a specific idea. So the first top row would focus a lot on aura. So you would get this buff that reduce damage with maximum stacks of 5, so its maximum stack at 10% damage reduction, and it's only for 6 seconds, and you can't play with aura this much, so why? Like, you will never really have maximum stack and keep it all the time, neither from those effects or elemental empowerment, which we're gonna get to in a second. The other one, increase outgoing damage when you get an aura, so one for defense and one for offense, for damage and condition damage. And again, you can't really get this much aura anyway. And the last one, you gain stability when you get an aura. At least this one makes sense, because whenever you get an aura, you gain stability. It's not a stack thing, or it's not something you have to try to keep. It's not like you're trying to keep a permanent stability, but still it feels extremely unrewarding. The second row is all about elemental empowerment, which is this thing, 1% increase to all the stats. So you need to have stats to begin with. If you don't have any condition damage, for example, there is no increase. That's why it can be really powerful with Celestial, but not with every other gear. If you're playing with Berserker, it will increase your power much more anyway, so I guess it's good. At maximum stack of 10, but you can't really reach 10 all the time. You will reach it easily, but we will never keep 10 all the time. And where does this become a serious problem? Because of this trait. The effectiveness of it reach 100%. Increased, so it's instead of 10% maximum, it's 20 if you at maximum stack, but you will never stick to maximum stack. Then why you play into it? It feels too much tiring to go through this and still you don't get the value. The same as this skill, the same as jet sphere, you build too much in something and still don't get the actual value of it, and this is how this class functions, sadly. Now the last row given us boons. Fury when you switch elements, extra boons when you use Jade, but it's only in the cast, so it doesn't keep resetting those boons, not like engineered trots or something. And increase the boon duration applied by the sphere by 50%. At least I saw some play goes into this. So let's say we're on Earth, for example, and we use the Jade. You get protection and keep bolting extra protection. See, I'm on Celestial, I think. Yes, I'm on Celestial, so I have boon duration, but even without Celestial, I was able to keep almost permanent protection. So you need to really be building energy fast, but it is possible to keep it. But that means you're trying to be a tanky and stationary, but you don't have this much healing. I don't know what in it trying to do like this. Most of the situation you need to be this tanky. There is not a lot of mobs, so you can heal with a lot of hits on them or something. No, it will be one target like a champion, and it will be hitting with really big hits, and you will not be able to heal through it, and you're stuck with melee, and then you're stuck with your Jade Sphere to get the protection, so it feels really annoying. So this one gives you at least extra energy, so you can keep up your Jade Sphere a bit longer, and with the extra boon, so you'd be able to grant a lot of boon anyway, but you would have to switch elements to do that, which means you can't have this much protection or this much quickness, so it contradicts itself. And this is a theme with how the traits work. They don't function as they probably supposed to. You don't get to build in something and get the value out of it. And if you remove the hammer and then remove the skills, you're stuck with those traits that don't actually give you this much value. If you remember with Weaver, for example, look at this trait, Weaver's power. You can actually keep this trait for 100% up the time. You would be a bit spammy, but at least you would do it. And it's not as core function of it as elemental empowerment, for example, because you get the other thing on minor. You always want it if it's possible, but you don't get the maximum stack. So a trait like this, you would be like, fine, I will take it, but not the maximum stack. So a trait like this doesn't make any sense. And if you try to actually play with this trait, you don't get the value of it because it feels like it's not possible. So I'm not sure is the class too hard or it simply just doesn't function as it should. And I guess that will be it for this video. This class feels completely out of place and unrewarding. If you want a serious tank, you would play Weaver. If you want a serious damage, you would still play Weaver for Burn Weaver. If you want to support and good utility overall while playing, you would go with Tempest. But I'm not sure you would go with this for any reason. It's not okay for support, it's not okay for damage, it's not okay for roaming. I'm not saying it working. So tell me what you think in the comments, and I hope I didn't make any elementalist main actually annoyed by this video, but that's how I felt playing this class or how I think of it, and I will see you next time. Peace.